The problem is there's this confidence crisis, right? So only 3 out of 10 people have the confidence to move forward with their property purchase. It's a part of the fact that consumers are aware, funders are aware, insurers are aware, and also regulators are increasingly becoming more and more sophisticated at the way in which they use external data, ratings insights, and market intelligence to really help guide and inform where they're going to send their resources. The data and the research from late last year shows that 76% of iCIRT-aware consumers have reported an improved confidence in construction. And so we've seen a number of private and public sector procurement professionals now actually asking in their tender documentation for applicants, tender respondents, to include whether they've actually got their iCIRT rating. And I think that's also driving market adoption.
So I'm here with Brad Walters from iCIRT by Equifax. Great to see you, my friend.
Good to see you, Mike.
So I think what you guys are doing is an amazing thing for the market and to give buyers confidence. But for those people that are hearing about the iCIRT rating system for the first time, can you share a bit about how it works and how buyers should be thinking about it?
Yeah, no, thanks, Mike. Look, iCIRT was always designed to really help support property buyers and investors in residential building, whether that's new builds or off the plan. And we all know the great Australian dream, right, is to own your own home. And the data sort of reaffirms that. Nearly half of all adult Australians have property intentions. They want to buy, they want to build, they want to renovate the next 5 years. The problem is there's this confidence crisis, right? So only 3 out of 10 people have the confidence to move forward with their property purchase. And what the data shows us is that when you look at the YouGov market research, they've shown that nearly 3/4 of that demographic are really concerned. They're concerned about, build quality. They're concerned about whether they can trust the developer. They're concerned about builder solvency and or construction collapses. So there's a real nervousness around there in the market. And so iCIRT was really designed to help sort of support and improve transparency, provide buyers and investors with access to independent information that they could turn to have confidence about who they can trust. I think iCIRT it's a collaborative effort. We work really closely with regulators, with government agencies, with funders, insurers, industry bodies and market associations to really work together to identify what's important when determining who can exhibit trust versus who's exhibiting higher risk characteristics. And so from that point of view, it's been great to work with so many in the industry to try and lift that transparency across those that are able to exhibit the capability, the capacity, the reliability and resilience to provide trustworthy built assets, helping support buyers and investors.
Well, one way we think about the market in general for off-the-plan is that it's really the off-the-plan market in some ways is competing with the established market. And so similar to the data you're talking about with YouGov is that we kind of collect information and ask buyers, what do they need? What's stopping them from buying off the plan versus established? And like YouGov, it talks a lot about people not having confidence in builders and developers. And so when we first heard that this whole process was starting in terms of the rating system and things, and be able to provide consumers with the transparency and more confidence, we were really excited about it. And so I think I originally reached out to you maybe 2 or 3 years ago when you first started, and you guys have come a super long way since then. And so how has the consumer awareness side gone? Obviously, we need to let consumers know if developers and builders are being rated. Where are you up to with the consumer side?
Yeah, look, we're on a journey. The good news though, Mike, is that we're seeing a real positive impact in terms of the confidence boost for consumers. So again, that the data and the research from late last year shows that 76% of iCIRT-aware consumers, 76% have reported an improved increase in their perception, their confidence in construction.
And that's on the consumer side?
That's on the consumer side, relative to only 6% of consumers that spoke about an improved perception for those that aren't aware of rating tools and aren't aware of iCIRT. So it's having a really powerful and compelling sort of uplift in confidence for consumers, which is great. So I think when you take a step back and you think about awareness, we, as you might recall, we created iCIRT as a national proposition, but we launched initially in New South Wales. So we thought that there would be strongest and highest levels of consumer awareness in the state of New South Wales. And what the research showed us is about 23% of consumers with property intentions, 23% had an awareness of rating tools iCIRT. Other states and territories wouldn't be as strong in terms of their awareness, given that our launch was in New South Wales. And what we found was that Queensland actually was pretty similar, consistent with that level of consumer awareness. But here in Victoria, there was an even stronger level of awareness across consumers. And we think that part of that story is possibly the we've been fortunate to have some favourable media coverage down here as a result of the fact that there's a big recognition of iCIRT being able to provide that early line of sight to construction collapses. We've identified more than 9 out of every 10 construction collapses at least 12 months in advance, and often closer to 2 or more years in advance, picking out the likes of ProBuild, Porter Davis, and many others. And I think that's really resonated with Victorian citizens that have some have been exposed to those harms, that are looking for new tools, that transparency about where they can turn to for improved trust.
Yeah, I think it makes so much sense for consumers to, be choosing a developer that has that. How does it kind of work from the developer's point of view? What should they be thinking about if they're considering engaging in the process with you guys?
Yeah, well, I guess we would turn to the feedback that we've had from developers. I mean, in New South Wales, as you might know, that we've had a lot of strong adoption.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
We've had more than 26% in New South Wales, more than 26% of medium or larger sized businesses that are either in the home building or the apartment development space reach out to obtain their iCIRT rating. And in aggregated terms, in value terms, that kind of is more than half of the entire New South Wales residential building market. So it's really strong adoption. The challenge is not all are able to obtain their trust credentials.
Yeah.
Right? And so
that's kind of by design though, right? 'Cause it's like if everyone gets a 10 out of 10, it's like, what's the point of having a rating system?
Yeah. So I think it's fair to say that there's perhaps been some pretty robust, rigorous conversations, and it's fair to say that some of them would be quite disappointed. That might be an understatement.
Yeah.
For those that haven't been able to obtain their trust credentials. But for more than 7 out of 10 that have obtained their trust credentials, we've had overwhelmingly positive feedback around the way in which it's provided a lens to their business, new insights that they've never had access to before. And so for those that are really looking for ways of embracing continuous improvement and lifting their capability to improve consumer confidence, have really been embracing the insights through iCIRT. Things like their governance structures or their quality assurance programs or their third-party oversight, or whether it's dispute resolution, their financial profiles. So I think it's great to see the way in which industry's been embracing the capabilities and supporting improved value for their own business.
Yeah, I think for the consumer as well, it's like if I had 2 developments, one that had a high iCIRT rating and one that had no rating whatsoever, I think that incremental price that a consumer would be prepared to pay, I could see how there would be an uplift there. And I think some of those, processes, whether it's from a governance point of view or from a build point of view, aren't just about the projection of it being good. It's actually the kind of making the required changes in order to lift that rating and to run a great business where hopefully you can charge a premium and more than offset any costs that's required in terms of improving those underlying changes that need to happen.
Yeah, well, I think that, again, the research shows that consumers are prepared to vote with their wallets. And we've seen that in the data. More than 76% of those that are with property intentions are prepared to pay a lot more to ensure they've got that peace of mind, that assurance when they're arguably making one of the biggest investments of their life, to know that it's with a reliable, a rated professional. And so, the data, this is YouGov, independent market research from late last year, showed that the average price increase that consumers are prepared to pay was 6.9%.
Wow.
7% more. So if we put that in context for industry, let's assume we're talking about a smaller to medium-sized development, let's say a $4 million development. And you think about just what does a 1% pricing differential look like for that reliable rated developer as opposed to some unknown unrated provider down the road, right? A 1% pricing differential provides a profit payback of more than 500% of the cost of getting their rating. So 5x. So investors where I'm from typically would fall over for profit returns like that, right?
Yeah.
And that's just at a 1% pricing differential. And so the larger the business or the greater the pricing differential, the greater the profit return to industry. So it's great in terms of how we can actually support industry, but importantly support buyers and investors in terms of that confidence proposition, knowing that they've gone through that independent, rigorous review to evidence their credentials.
One of the things we always talk about is how do we help the Mirvacs of the world, who in our view are one of the best development builders, etc. in the country, versus someone that's kind of like having a go at development. And not to say that there shouldn't be new market entrants, but I think it's important that consumers understand the difference between someone that's a like highly credentialed, very experienced professional operation, and, those types of organizations are getting iCIRT rated, and that kind of just makes it easier for the consumer to tell the difference. And we're doing our bit. You guys are certainly doing your bit, and there are other players in the market that are trying to make it easier for the consumer to tell the difference. What sort of types of companies is it that are getting them? Is it the Mirvacs of the world? Is it I'm assuming it's not the have a go kind of crew, but like, do you want to talk to us a bit about that?
Yeah. So I think, again, coming back to the proposition of iCIRT really supporting buyers and investors in residential building initially, the reality is it's there to support the whole market.
Yeah.
And so the large majority of the construction industry is really made up of smaller businesses. And so while we've got a large and long list of well-known, reputable businesses that have gone through and obtained their iCIRT rating credentials, the likes of Mirvac that you spoke about, Stockland, Lend-Lease, Cbus Property, whether it's Buildercorp, Daycorp, Decode, Meriton, many, many others, right? The large majority of those that have reached out to obtain their iCIRT rating are actually smaller to medium-sized businesses. And so in addition to all the large cohort that have been able to evidence that, it's really there to support the whole industry. And one of the core design principles of the iCIRT ratings framework was really around proportionality. How did we ensure that the ratings format would be fit for purpose, that it would be commensurate with the size and scale of the rated business? And so our process, the information that we collect, the attributes, the criteria, the weights, it's all based on the size and scale of the rated business. And so from that perspective, it's really good to see the way in which it's supporting not just large builders and developers and others, but also smaller businesses in terms of being able to showcase their credentials to buyers and investors.
And you talked a bit about before, and I think it's great because I think the market does need a range of different providers. I think a lot of the big guys do a good job. Some of them not so good. Then you've got there's kind of a full mix of high quality people that are working across all segments of the market. And so it's apartment developers, it's the builders of those apartments, and it's volume home builders. Are they the kind of three main buckets, or is there some other stuff?
Yeah, no, it was really all about trying to support initially developers in the whole build team. And so from that point of view, it was not just builders and developers, but it's actually about providing ratings for technical services providers and consultants, all building professionals. So we're providing iCIRT ratings to certifiers, architects, engineers, project managers, a whole range of different building professionals, all leaning in as a part of that overall build team. And so when consumers are looking at a particular building or a project site where they're looking to buy into an off-the-plan development, they can have confidence in knowing what is the rating and the ratings transparency, not just on the developer, but the whole build team, which is great. And that was the original intent of iCIRT was providing that multi-party composition. What does the trust credentials of that team look like? And Lloyd's of London weren't the first, but perhaps widely recognised as saying that the quality of a built asset is only as good as its weakest link. And so that transparency across that build team is really important. But we've also seen it extend from residential building into commercial construction.
Oh, interesting.
And so initially that was through mixed use developments, and then more recently into non-residential building. And so we've seen a number of private and public sector procurement professionals now actually asking in their tender documentation for applicants, tender respondents, to include whether they've actually got their iCIRT rating. And I think that's also driving market adoption and uptake as businesses in a competitive environment are trying to demonstrate they've gone through that independent rigorous review to demonstrate their credentials. So it's great to see the way in which the market is picking up and using iCIRT.
I mean, it makes sense whether the vendor is, a commercial asset owner or a person buying their home. I think it makes sense both ways. And so you mentioned some of the bigger developers who are doing stuff interstates, like Meriton, obviously they've got projects in a few different areas. Mirvac do, same Stockies and Lend-Lease as well. So when they get rated, is that rated at a national level, and does it apply to all of their projects, or is it by state? How does that process work?
So when we're doing a ratings assessment, looking at that particular business and where does that business operate? So in big structures, some of those bigger firms might have particular businesses that focus on a particular state or territory. When we're providing the assessment, we're looking at what's the project pipeline of the rated party. And so as a part of that, that may be geo-locked, and some of them are national. And so it really depends on the particular developer or builder in terms of how they've structured their business. But the intention was always national. And so we're seeing early and growing interest and adoption across other states and territories outside of New South Wales, which was always the intent. And I think a part of that, Mike, is the fact that there's that realization that there's a growing awareness across consumers that are really looking for those trust credentials. But also because I think it's actually supporting funders and insurers, and they typically operate on a national basis. So the last 12 months have been interesting. We've seen 82% of funders really enhance their due diligence in the construction space when they're providing loans for constructors.
I was actually talking to the CIO of a big fund the other day, and I was asking him if he had any thoughts on it, and he was saying that they're looking at it as well. I've been hearing that in the industry.
Well, in New South Wales, we know that a third of the funders are now already using iCIRT in their decision-making process. We know that another 19% are looking at incorporating it into their processes in the next 6 to 12 months. So that's more than half of all the funders providing support into New South Wales. Many of those are national. And in the financial markets, typically there's national providers. And so there's a growing recognition across other states and territories in the same way as insurers are national. And so many of the large insurance companies are now also using iCIRT in their processes as a part of underwriting, asking the question, have you obtained your iCIRT rating? And so I think it's a part of the fact that consumers are aware, funders are aware, insurers are aware, and also regulators are increasingly becoming more and more sophisticated at the way in which they use external data, ratings insights, and market intelligence to really help guide and inform where they're going to send their resources. So for risk-based and targeted regulatory surveillance, for those that have been able to demonstrate and obtain their ratings credentials, are much more likely to have that earned autonomy than those that are operating in the shadows. So I think, again, there's a wide range of benefits that rated professionals and those constructors that have demonstrated their credentials are able to provide to the market, but importantly to buyers and investors.
So all this obviously has a pretty big impact in terms of how it plays with financial institutions. How are they responding and how's all that playing out?
Yeah, I think the benefit to industry, Mike, knowing that now funders and insurers and others across the financial markets are using and looking at iCIRT, is it's really helping unlock access to that capital quicker. And so the feedback we're getting is the speed at which they're now being able to obtain access to that capital, as well as to different funders that might have previously not had an opportunity to connect with. We do know that one of the big banks has actually said that their construction lending book is now closed to new finance if you haven't otherwise got your iCIRT rating. Man. So it's unlocking access to capital, right? And particularly in the cost of capital, the cost of debt to businesses is really important. So the more they can evidence and showcase to funders their credentials, the more likely they'll have a good outcome. But equally too for insurers. We know Resilience Insurance is providing latent defects insurance in the market.
And we think that's another great solution that kind of is working towards solving that same type of problem. It's great.
Another really good trust mechanism, helping build confidence for buyers and investors. And Resilience, as an example, using iCIRT in their process, is able to afford a discount on the insurance premium that's greater than the cost of a business getting their iCIRT rating.
Really?
So the economic value is very strong in order for business to actually obtain their trust credentials and then showcase that to the market, importantly building confidence for consumers in an environment where there's an enormous amount of adverse media coverage around bad builders, Phoenix operators, repeat offenders, collapsing constructors, dodgy developments. iCIRT's shining a light on those what does good look like? Being able to show what is reliable, resilient, trustworthy professionals providing reliable assets.
One of the things I really like about it is that from the data that we see is that most developers are doing a pretty good job. And unfortunately, if you read the media, it would not suggest that that's the case. So being able to give consumers the confidence to be able to really tell the difference between those two groups, as well as the developers getting better insurance for cheaper cost of capital for their projects, and then higher conversion rates at higher sale prices. It's a hell of a kind of way for us to be moving the market forward, which can be good for the entire kind of ecosystem. And for these types of products and services to really flourish in the marketplace, it needs to be good for everyone. And I think you guys are heading on that direction for sure. We're certainly excited to be supporting what you guys are doing, and congratulations on the success so far. And thanks for an awesome contribution to the market.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Much appreciated.